So I noticed there's like a connective tissue between a lot of what you do, and some of it is like, parts of who you are. And so when Jezebel came along, is a semi-autobiographical movie, correct? It's like part of your life.
It's autobio.
Oh, it is all okay, completely
Yeah.
okay.
Oh wow.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh,
So
y'all gonna learn today,
you're gonna learn today.
man.
So the movie is about sex work, and I have a question for you before we go into how you came across, wanting to write the script.
Mhm.
COVID is here, and there
It
is a
is.
crazy influx in
Yes. I
sex
wanted
work.
to talk about this too. I'm glad you brought that
How
up.
do you
Let's
feel,
talk
Numa,
about it.
about the idea of how sex work has become a little more mainstream, and how do you feel about the empowerment that's happening right
Yeah,
now?
because like even when we showed the movie for my movie club, that was part of the conversation. I'm like, oh, this is like OnlyFans, like the early stages. Obviously, this is
It's an
The early,
early
early
yeah.
stages.
So
band,
like early inception of the internet, and like the
Mhm.
term cam girl wasn't like even coined at the time, but it
Right.
was like super, I guess, relevant moving it into where we were at that time.
Well, sex work is work,
Yeah, yeah.
and but that's not to say that it's not complex, so I think that there's a lot to be said under that umbrella. But the destigmatization and the hopefully decriminalization of sex
Mhm.
work is something that I'm passionate about and that I think should happen more and more. So with the stigma part is definitely still there, but there is a mainstreamness of it. There's more, there's like a new lexicon around sex work now, and there's you've got almost every famous person talking or joking or singing about an OnlyFans. And I'm like, well, maybe they even low key do have one that we don't know
Hey,
about.
word. I didn't even
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about that.
I said I was going to start OnlyFans just for my feet, just for all I said, I'll put out there, and I believe that a lot of people would sign up for my toesies, numerous
Yeah,
toesies.
totally
Um,
fans.
I
and so there's many ways that you could do an OnlyFans. So it tickles me, and it also it makes me smile.
yeah.
I'm glad that there's a platform for safer sex work for whoever wants to go in there, and also just for the exploration of sensuality and for the openness to different kinks and fetishes. I think that should be something that is not so repressed.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that way. And of course, I'm one of the founders of Black and Sexy TV,
Word.
Yeah.
and my early days as a cam girl, I would have never connected those two because when I left that job, I looked at it as a dirty little secret that I was never going to tell anybody, even though I was journaling about it a great deal and starting to conceive it as a film.
Hmm.
I really felt like I had to put a lot of distance between that and what I do today, when actually they're very married to each other.
Right.
And the things that I care about today are directly related to that. So
Oh
That's
wow.
yeah,
crazy.
that's how I see it. I see it as a continuum of, part of my purpose is to push that envelope, is to challenge what society says about sex and Black women and what we desire and how we commodify ourselves. Um, yeah, I think that's part of what my voice is here for.
Yeah. And I think what we like to do here is kind of demystify the whole process of creation and make sure people understand that it's not always glamorous. And like did some research for like your whole process for the film. Like you really worked hard to get that done. You shot it in a super short period to save money. I think you like even stayed at location that you guys were filming at, and like I think post production you guys had to do like some crowdfunding for post production, right?
Oh yeah, it was a truly indie experience, but I was used to it
Mm-hmm.
because it was all blood, sweat, and tears and very indie to get every series on Black and Sexy done, you know, and it was a matter of like pulling the right team together that was really willing to be in the trenches. And I really learned how to be super resourceful. So going into a feature film, I felt confident that I could do it with a small budget. I felt confident that I could do it within a certain amount of days because I'd had practice for 6-7 years of getting an episode out every single Sunday, you know, so you have to turn those episodes around fast. And so if you do that a few times, that's the length of a feature right there. So I'm like, well, if we're able to do it for this episodic so fast, I should be able to do it with the right script in a feature. So I was able to identify by learning on set what makes your day go longer, what makes your day go quicker, what looks best on camera. If you are going to only do a couple of locations, how to actually still make that a rich visual experience. All of those things are through the trial and error of what was all done for the web at the time. So I went in pretty confident, and I think that energy and that confidence, the team around me, a lot of them I had worked with on Black and Sexy series as well. So they already knew the flow of it and like, this is how we're going to get this done. We don't do a ton of takes. We don't do a ton of coverage. This is how it's going to get done. So everyone had the same mindset and the same excitement because it was everyone's first feature.
Right.
So everyone came in with the same sense of wonder, like, oh, I've always wanted to do a feature or be in a feature. And, you know, Numa's got this story and we want to help her tell it, you know. So there's just a lot of enthusiasm that carried us a long way, but a lot of just practical knowledge and experience from doing it for hundreds of episodes, you know, years. Yeah.
So I mean, one of the cool things about that is when you're working on an indie budget, sometimes you don't have the crazy drone shots around the building. You're just doing the content. And there's something about the flow of the movie that feels very natural. It feels the way that I want a story to be told. I don't want to see the side shot of LA I don't want to, I just want to hear the story told, you know, and you tell an incredible story with a lot of nuance to it, because there is some nuance with the conversation of sexuality and sex work, and sometimes where people can't separate the two, where somebody that's in the industry can separate it, because it is a job for people.
Right.
So how did you work on creating that nuance? Because there is some, or is it just natural? I guess because it's your story that you're able to.
I think it's sensibility, you know, and I think that it's tied to just the things that I'm drawn to, the things that I love and the eye that I've developed over the years. I've always been more drawn to something that's stripped down, that exercises restraint. That's what turns me on cinematically, you know, when I see that the director could have made this choice, but they leaned back instead of like putting the lacquer on it, you know. And even in when I look at artists who paint, for example, I'm always more drawn to their sketches. Like, you know, if I go visit an artist at their studio and they may have these amazing paintings, I always ask them, can I see some of your sketches? Do you sketch as well? Do you sketch before you paint? And when they show me those sketches, I'm more in love with those. Like I want to collect those. And I think that just applies to my filmmaking sensibility. I like the more stripped down version of almost everything. So, so I definitely applied that to every choice I made in my film.
When you write these things that are so close to you and so personal, does it feel like therapy to you? Because like I would imagine some of these stories that you are telling, you feel super connected to and super personal to. So being able to share that with people, even like through some of the stuff I do, like I feel nervous about it. So does it help you like personally when you tell these stories and show these stories?
Yeah, I mean, it helps to have a therapist to walk you through some of the things that you didn't know were gonna, fly in your face, and I was seeing a therapist at the time, during part of the filmmaking, and she asked me questions that I hadn't asked of myself.
Mm,
And I think, that helped me look at the film in a different way and look at what I went through and how I processed it to survive. So I don't know if the process of doing it feels like therapy, but I did have therapy while I was doing it because
Mm.
I was revisiting a lot of trauma. And those, even with the very first film, my very first short film is about my mother who passed away. um, it was about her, how we had a role reversal, and I was taking care of her. I was like her mom, taking care of her in the last uh, days and years of her life. And that was my very first short film, and I remember the first time I saw it on a big screen, I had a trauma response.
oh wow.
Wow.
I just kind of shut down and really went through a lot emotionally because I didn't have a therapist then, and I
Mhm.
didn't know like how hard that was going to hit me to have all those memories come crashing back at me. So by the time I made my feature, I had the right support for
Gotcha.
that. So
Because this was a little different. You play your sister, right? If I'm not mistaken, you played your sister. So you're watching yourself go through the things that you went through when you were younger. I mean, I don't think it could have been anything more triggering than watching yourself go through these things. And to have the right system in place must have been amazing to kind of, you know,
Yeah.
take the shock away from some of it. Because I was watching this movie thinking like, oh my goodness, this is Numa going through these things, in this industry, being, some of the scenes where when people question your worth, sometimes that is such a dramatic situation. Sometimes, like, to have it happen in front of people and you're not worth this much money and you should do this, and I felt it. I felt it.
Yeah.
How did that feel watching yourself be in these scenarios?
Well, it was awesome to have a sense of vindication about
Mm,
it. Like,
Mm.
first of all, look at me now. I am the filmmaker and actor that I always intended to be, no matter what I had to go through to get there,
mm,
which was like
Mhm.
early acting and filmmaking to really keep it real.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I was a cam girl. I learned how to frame myself. I learned how to light
oh
myself.
wow.
I learned what looked good on me. I learned how to do what I'm doing now with you, which is connect with you when you're not even in the room. Like, I
Right.
hope you can feel me
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
feel
Right.
absolutely.
you. But that's, in the early cam girl days, I wouldn't be able to see you. You could only see me. So it's like all on me to like exude the energy that's going
Yeah.
to penetrate that screen,
Yeah.
So watching Tiffany Tanil, who's playing me, and she did a marvelous job. It was more exciting and yeah, that sense of vindication than anything else. It was like, yeah, and it was kind of fun to revisit it. Like, now I can just like go in and reshape it, and I can appreciate my sister and what she went through,
Mm,
Mm.
because I never really considered what she was going through because I was so occupied with my own survival at the time. So it was really a full circle thing. Um, and I think, yeah, with the support of therapy, uh, was it was a great experience for me to go through that and revisit all of those things.
Yeah.
follow-up question. You weren't tempted to like change the past, like Back to the Future? Like you go into the cam guy's office and you punch him in the nuts and he's like, I'll never do this. And you take all the money out of the safe and you like set it off at the end or something like that. You never got, I'm saying you you never got tempted to change your past in this movie. You're like, man, this is the best story ever. I kicked that
Well, this is what I'll say. I'll say that 90% of it is what I really went through.
Mhm.
Um, I I did ask for more money. I was treated like, no, we're not going to do that.
Right, right.
Mhm.
The exact way that scene plays out, I took a little bit of license with it, like how much power,
Yeah.
she does seem to have at the end.
Mhm.
I probably didn't feel like as empowered. But for the most part, like what you're seeing in there is what happened.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Like,
I
it's what I
appreciate
went through. And I felt like that was not something I wanted to change. I wanted to live as close to the truth of my memory. As you know, like memory works on us in different ways. But that is how I remember it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to remain dedicated to the truth.
I appreciate that honesty.
For sure. And then like I think that is what makes the work that you put out like relevant, timeless, and like even though that took place in like the late 90s, like I said, it's still even applied to what's going on right now. And then what's funny was I went back and watched a couple episodes of The Couple, and I was like, if you take like the just isolate it and put it into 2020 2021, like that work from home episode when you're standing behind him and he's trying to work and then he goes outside, I was like, that could happen today, like because a lot of people working from home, yeah, or like them driving in the car together and having arguments about directions. I was like, I went through that type of scenario before, so like it's super relatable, and that's super appreciated.
Yeah, I really love and sometimes, really miss The Couple and what we were able to do there. A lot of that was pulled from real life experiences, whether it was with Dennis or with other people that we had been with, but just all the little details of living with someone versus when you were just dating.
Yeah.
Is really what The Couple is all about, and just how like spending so much time with that one person, how that just brings out all of your annoying qualities, but also reflects back like all of their annoying qualities. And sometimes I still want that outlet, like something happens, I'm like, we would have wrote that down for The Couple for sure. We would have that, like one of my favorite episodes from The Couple was dishes. Within every couple, there's always something with the dishes. There's one person who does them, one person who doesn't, or they both don't, and they like present each other. And there's just things like that. I like to reflect back, just the realness of it,
Yeah. So Jezebel got distribution through Netflix. So tell me about that feeling, because there's nothing like Netflix is the gift that keeps on giving. So how did it come about? How did it feel? How does it continue to feel? Because people keep reading stuff.
I'm going to give you guys the story of how Jezebel got out there, because there's some details that I don't think I've talked about as much. One is we made the film in July 2017. The day after 4th of July, we drove out to Las Vegas. We started filming. We spent a week there. We came back to LA to find the second location for the chat rooms. We filmed 4 more days. So it was 10 total shooting days.
Wow.
So we finished filming by August. We were all done by August. So the deadline for Sundance is, I think the late deadline is late September or early October, something like that. So I was trying to get my film done in time for that Sundance.
Whoa.
Which is crazy.
That is crazy.
That's legitimately crazy.
Okay. So of course, like what we sent wasn't even done. Of course, we're not getting into Sundance with that, and the deadline for South by Southwest, I think, is a month later. So I'm like trying to like rush this movie into these deadlines. I didn't expect to get into Sundance, but it still burned. But I thought we might have a shot at South by Southwest. So when I got the call that we did not get in to South by Southwest in 2018, I was crushed. Realistically, I shouldn't have been crushed because we weren't done with the movie. We were still editing the movie, but I had just sent them what we had so far.
Yeah.
So once I finally picked myself up from that, I was pretty devastated because I just wanted the film to be part of that 2018 Sundance cycle. And it wasn't, and that was a year of depression for me. But we finished the film. I submitted it again. I'm like, this is the film I want it to be now. I submitted it to South by Southwest again, and we got in. So that was
Wow.
like the first big hurdle of just learning that a no can turn into a yes, not with consent, but with filmmaking, okay?
Okay.
Let's
Gotcha.
be
Gotcha.
There we
clear,
go.
because in case anyone want to try to edit what I said. So not you, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
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 for sure.
absolutely.
You know, so in filmmaking, a no can turn into a yes. So so then I had up on my wall the names of places where I wanted the film to be, and Netflix was at the top of that list.
Mhm.
And the film was sent to so many distributors, including Netflix. And the feedback I always got was, we love this film, it's so special, but no, it's a pass, including Netflix.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Now, and I'm just like, well, if you love the film, I started getting angry because sometimes they would write me paragraphs of why they loved the film and
And
still
then
say
say
no.
no.
And I'm like,
Wow.
it's just that conflicting feeling of, they're trying to give you a sincere, or maybe they went to bat for your film, but they just couldn't get it through the final,
Right.
whoever that makes the final decision. So I understood it, and I tried to be as gracious as possible, but I was like, oh, like burning inside.
Mm.
And so we had also sent the film over to Array, and it took a while before we got a response. And Ava was the publicist for A Good Day to Be Black and Sexy. So I knew
Oh,
her, and I had
get
reached,
out of
I knew her, and she was definitely very aware of me in the film, and had, tweeted about Jezebel and gave money to my crowdfunding. But I hadn't reached out to her personally about Array distributing my film.
Mhm.
But the film had been sent. And so when we didn't hear back, I said, I should just email her directly,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
tell her why I think Array would be a great home for the film. So I did that. I said, just follow your impulse. And why are you letting your representatives speak
Yeah.
for you?
Right.
Speak to this woman yourself, So I sent an email, and I, said all the reasons why I think Jezebel should be at Array. They emailed back right away and said that the team was taking a look at it. So a couple weeks later, my phone rang, and it was Ava DuVernay on the phone.
Wow.
And I started screaming. And
Wow.
she told me that the team watched the film. She told me she was proud of me. And because she's known me over the years. And she said she was very proud of me, that the team loved the film, and that they wanted to put their Black woman elbow grease behind it to get it
Wow.
out. And Array has a distribution deal with Netflix.
Oh,
And it all
So
comes full
that's-
circle.
what I had written on my wall actually did come true.
oh my
It
God.
just
Manifestation.
similar to me submitting a bad cut of my film, or early cut, I should say, a
Mhm.
rough cut,
Mhm.
turned into a yes once I got it together. My film found the right home, and Array is the perfect home for my film. I don't know if another distributor would have put the same care into it that Array has put into it. So, but I also learned that don't let your representatives do all the speaking for you.
Right.
Word.
Because an email like that is kind of just like copy and paste and very dry.
Yeah.
Whereas my email was personal,
Yeah.
and was clear about the vision for the film. So that's a lesson learned.
Yeah.
I think, especially for our community, it's like, yeah, just because you start having a team, you're still the leader of that team. And if you can be the one doing the speaking, like you said to me, you thought I was going to respond to you with the email my publicist so that we could like talk on podcasts. I'm not saying I'm never going to have a publicist that people need to be
Yeah.
referred to. I'm sure that's very near in the future. But as much as I can, I'm going to go straight to source and talk straight to, because I can always just say no. as well.
Right,
You know
right,
what I mean?
absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
as far as us being able to talk and us being able to come together and partner up on things, we got to talk to each other
Yeah.
because no one else speaks the way that we speak, and no one else is going to speak for your film, your project, your business, whatever it is. No one's going to speak for it the same as you would, And so it's like I knew that, but I had to remind myself of that. And that's when everything turned around for Jezebel. So.
Wow, that's amazing.